Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Alison McConnell and the returning Tam McManus here with us. Of course, since Tam has joined, it seems to be the norm that only 2 out of the 4 here don't take holidays during the season. The other 2 swan about 4 or 5 times. Ali, it's just magnificent. You need to change your attitude to broadcasting. Commitment.
Yes, indeed. I need to become a bit less professional, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, yeah, well done, Ali. I like that. And bearing in mind, Tam went with all his mates. If you could break it to Fred that you're just going on holiday, all your pals to school, that would be brilliant. Good luck with that. Anyway, good to have Tam back with us. Just as Hibs are blowing their chance to finish third in the table, we'll get his thoughts on that shortly. Here's the quiz question for today. Who was the last player to score in 10 consecutive Scottish Premiership games? There's a belter of a question, Ruffy. You want to have a go at that? 10.
I think I know the answer.
Oh, do you? Mm-hmm. Well, you must have looked it up. You must have looked at it in a script then, because
no, I heard somebody mention it.
Yeah, sure you did. Sure, Ruffy. Anyway, yeah, we'll give you the answer at the end of the programme. 10 consecutive Premiership games, if you think you know. Also, thanks to everyone who's been joining us, and the figures for the programme have been absolutely superb. So thank you to everyone who watches the show, subscribes to the show, and of course listens on podcasts as well, Ruffy. Lots of people are tuning in various platforms.
Yep, I'm going to give my wee guy a mention who I met this morning, Kenny Ruff. He wanted to know if we were any
in relation, no?
No, but we aren't. You know, he was from a different bit. But he's a window cleaner, and he goes about obviously cleaning windows. And he has his iPods in all day while he's cleaning the windows.
A bit of pain.
It keeps. Oh God.
There you are. That's what we've missed, Ruffy. That's what we've missed. Just glaze over it. So, yeah, absolutely. And who can forget that classic line, he's a windy cleaner who cleans windows. So that's the standard of the show that you've got. Looking forward to it.
I met somebody as well on the way over in the flight. He sat next to me in the plane. He's an avid listener as well, Rangers fan. I can't remember his name, but loves the show as well. Yeah,
brilliant. Much has been made of Rangers signings and the possibility, or rather the probability, of Celtic strengthening for the Champions League. Many positions are mentioned, but not one of goalkeeper. Ruffy touched on it recently when he said he couldn't understand why Celtic fans were questioning Hart. Well, I've got a few Celtic mates here in Thailand, says Jamie, and they are very concerned. He was dropped from Man City in England because of his lack of mobility. In the last 2 games against St Mirren and Rangers, he gave a good impression of a mannequin. Perhaps he has concrete insoles. As much as I respect the views of Ruffy on goalkeepers, as a Rangers fan, I hope he's the Celtic #1 next season, because he looks as if he's a liability. Ruffy?
Well, I did say on this show about a month ago, and I get slaughtered for it.
No, you didn't get slaughtered, but you did.
Yeah, well, I'm not a Celtic supporter who goes to the games all the time, but certainly the ones that do go to the games all the time are a wee bit anxious, you know, with some of the goals that he's been losing. You know, the mobility thing seems to be, you know, a problem. His error of judgment sometimes coming out to help his back four, but he's still a quality goalkeeper, you know. But I mean, all goalkeepers go through a bad spell, you know, but it was interesting, Maine getting a 3-year deal. So I was wondering if there's any other movement there with Segrist. I wonder if he's going to hang about. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, okay. We shall see. Give us your thoughts on that as well. Can I just say at this point, good luck to Graham Souness, because the Liverpool legend and of course former Rangers manager is going to swim the English Channel to help people with a rare skin condition. He was actually on the BBC talking about this. It is a disease that can affect, you know, not a huge amount of people, but certainly one that he came into contact with. A 14-year-old girl has this, and it's kind of a butterfly skin that affects and tears and blisters at the slightest touch. So Graham has obviously been affected by that, and he's hoping to raise £1.1 million for the Deborah charity, which will support Isla and around 5,000 people in the United Kingdom. And you know, it's great when your old teammate Ruffy, you know, lends his weight and his support to that. And I'll tell you one thing: it's not going to be easy for him at his age. No.
No, I actually came along to Deborah night in the town. Myself and Macca did a wee turn for them at the night, and he is very passionate about the wee girl. I actually met the wee girl. It is a horrendous disease, I don't know what you want to call it, but it is, and Graham is very affected by the whole thing. So he's organised lots of dinners. He is the main patron of the charity, and it's good that he's doing that. And I'm sure if he's doing it, there might be some other people. Now, some other people usually join in, you know, to help him along in the swim, maybe swimmers, maybe people like that.
Yeah, there will be. What age is Graham?
Same as me, 71.
Wow. And you're his teammate, Ruffy, it would be.
I can't swim. I can't swim a lens.
Armbands.
Yeah, exactly. I tried to see if you'd reel him in there for it, but no, listen.
Swimmers like Shan Davis and, you know, give me some men swimmers, British swimmers.
Michael Jameson.
Aye, people like that, you know, who would maybe do a stage.
Yeah. Well, listen, fair play. That's a great effort by Graham Souness, and I really wish him all the best for it. That's the type of thing that we like to highlight. Anyway, now from that, let's get into the meat and bones of what happened at the weekend. Of course, top and bottom, there were still things that we were looking to get a decision on. It's still bubbling along nicely now, because Hearts certainly threw a spanner in the works. Aberdeen thought they might have been plain sailing all the way to the end with that cushion that they had of 5 points, but Hearts defeated them by 2-1, Ali.
Yeah, I think it's wide open now. I think Aberdeen have got St Mirren at home on Wednesday night, and then they have to go to Celtic Park on the last day for Trophy Day. I don't think that'll be an easy one for them. I think had they even come away with a draw, I think you would have fancied them to go on and cement that third spot. Now I think it's very firmly up in the air, and I think St Mirren have shown, certainly at the weekend, that they're not down in tools just yet either. I expect they would give Aberdeen a fairly strong game at Pittodrie on Wednesday night too. Yeah,
and what a way to finish for Hearts, an Edinburgh derby as well. So 2 big games coming up for them. Of course, Stevie Naismith was speaking today, and Kerry Pollock was there.
After a massive result on Saturday against Aberdeen, this Hearts side are full of confidence before they head to Ibrox on Wednesday night. Stephen Naismith says he understands the demands at the club and what's expected of them, and that, of course, is guaranteeing some European football.
The demand of Hearts is I didn't realise it till I came and played at the club, but there's definitely a greater demand than a lot of clubs in Scotland here, and that's part of when you're recruiting players and when you've got a squad there, that you need to be able to deal with it. You need to deal with the expectation of, we're expected to be challenging for European places, we're expected to be challenging for silverware, and if I'm honest, I enjoy that. I've been there for a long period of my career as a player, and I'm no different as a coach or a manager. I want to win.
Just 2 games to go before we get to the end of the season. These final post-split fixtures can get a little nervy for some. Stephen Naismith told us how he felt when these games came around in the calendar.
The fear of losing was the thing that drove me, whether it be the start of the season, end of the season. The individual fear of being poor and not being good enough was the thing that drove me when I played. And playing with the clubs I have in Scotland especially, there was a good demand that keeps you on your toes for that. So it was a good combination.
It was a good win for them against Aberdeen, and the goal from Josh Ginnelly was an absolute raker, Tom.
Yeah, it was. As soon as he cuts inside, it's a great view. You know, he just skims inside of the post in the top corner. But you know, judging by the highlights, Hearts dominated the game. You know, deserved to win the game, and they had to win. You had to win. You know, they take it down possibly at the last game. You know, be looking for St Mirren to do them a favour. You know, up at Pittodrie and get a result. And St Mirren are still in it as well. You know, I think 5th place, you know, we all expect Celtic to beat Inverness, and 5th place is going to get you into Europe, so St Mirren still got a chance of finishing above Hibs, so they're going up there with something to play for. So I think the midweek games are going to be pivotal. I think if Hearts, I wouldn't expect Hearts to get in off Rangers, but that game Aberdeen versus St Mirren is going to be the crucial one. If Aberdeen win it, then they're home and hosed.
Yeah, but nevertheless, it just shows you, even with the points that you accrue, it's financially rewarding for you. And of course, Hearts know only too well, you had a great chance last year to get into the Europa League.
Yeah, and I think apart from anything else, I think there are two aspects to that. One, I think there's a financial side of it that obviously is significant for the club, but on a playing side and what it does for the squad, what it does for the supporters, I think is it just energises things. I think there's a whole different aspect to your season when there's a possibility of European football, and then if you go on and secure it, I think it just adds something specific to your campaign. I think it benefits the club in so many different ways, and I think they'll be desperate to go and do it. And obviously, I think the finances that come in on the back of it are then the difference when it comes to investing in your squad, bringing players in, bringing in that little bit of quality that just enhances the overall quality that's within your side.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Aberdeen host St Mirren on Wednesday, which I think it would favour them, as Tam mentioned there. It would favour them to finally secure a third place trophy.
Yeah, well, obviously Barry Robson didn't see St Mirren's performance at Parkhead, so after the game against Hearts he was quite confident that he could beat that St Mirren team with 2 or 3 players coming back, the home advantage and everything to go for. But I think St Mirren will have something to say about that. They'll be going up there being really encouraged by that performance at Celtic, so I don't think it's a given that they're going to win this one quite easy.
Barry Robson will be happy that he's got 3 key players back in his squad.
Yeah, I think it's an emotional game, which it is. But I think the last time down here we were a total different team now. A real total different team. And the positive for me, and you'll all know this, we've got Shinnie, Duke and McCrory all to come back. Now that's not easy to come down here and play in a game without the players. The other boys that came in did well, but they're your experience and your legs and your goals, so that's what we've got to look forward to on Wednesday.
Yeah, Barry Robson, I thought he was top drawer after the game at the weekend, because he thought he should have had a penalty, and he's saying, when are we going to get decisions? 2 games to go, nothing like cranking it up, Ali.
Yeah, I think everyone's had grievances at various points over the course of this campaign. Like you, I think he had 1 shout. I think it was 1 that he might have got.
I thought it was a Stonewaller.
Yeah, I think so too. So I can understand why he was annoyed at not getting that one. Overall, in terms of the performance, however, I thought Hearts were the better team. I thought Hearts deserved to win.
Yeah, okay. I can tell you Celtic finished that game at Celtic Park at the weekend 2-2 against St Mirren, which I think blew us right out of the water, Ruffy. As far as the predictor, we had an absolute nightmare with some of the predictions, apart from yourself. I think you had the best out of the bad lot. We were absolutely abysmal.
I thought I only had 2.
2 points.
2 or 4,
I'll tell you, Hugh get no points, and
Rangers won.
I don't think I get much more, but we'll look at that in a minute. But nevertheless, St Mirren did actually come to Celtic Park and say, Stephen Robinson said on the Friday, we're going to have a go, and he did.
Yeah, it was the same as Rangers. They looked at the Rangers game and said, look, if you have a go at this defence, no Cameron Vickers, Boy Johnson's not there. Stafford looks lost without Cameron Vickers there. You know, he looks all over the place, and I don't know what he was trying to do at the second goal. He never even challenged the header. He just sort of hold him off when he headed it.
Come on, what about the first one? Joe Hart.
Yeah, I think if you asked Joe Hart, he could get down swifter. But he seems to be he had another couple after that, balls that come across the box. He's quite happy just to punch them, you know, to get his hand on, and then it's a matter of who it falls to. Does it fall to a defender? Does it fall to an attacker? Sometimes you get away with it, sometimes you don't. But you know, he'll know himself that he could have done better with that one, and probably the second one as well. Yeah,
big questions maybe in the summer. Or will they just say, well, it's just a wee blip here?
Peter, I said it in a show about maybe 3-4 weeks ago about Joe Hart. I think he's good domestically, but if Celtic wanted to do anything in the Champions League, I don't think he's good. I don't think he's good enough, Peter. And I think now you're starting to see. I thought I wasn't on the show obviously last week after the Old Firm game. I thought he was poor in that game as well. And then at the first goal, he's the ball's down. He's got to get down and get that. And maybe that's just a sign of him getting older. You know, his reflexes are not as good. But as I said, domestically, he's not tested. You know, he's hardly. You could put a traffic cone in the goal at times at Celtic. So I think at European football in the big games against Rangers, you know, I think the Celtic will be looking for an upgrade on him.
Well, the big traffic cones are just one of the wee ones.
Yeah. Ange Postecoglou, I think he was getting a little bit tetchy with some people, obviously questioning the fact that it was a 2-2 draw against St Mirren.
Yeah, look, you know, there's no doubt, you know, the lads always find a way, and you know, Cal, is the leader of that. But he's part of it as well. Yeah, it's his responsibility. It's all of us collectively. There's no hiding from it. Starts with me and then the group. But again, like this is, these guys are champions. They've won the title. Yeah, I just said before that when the heavyweight champion of the world lifts the belt, it doesn't have to have won every round.
At that point, I think he was ramming home because, quite simply, Celtic are champions. So there's going to be the edge taken off them slightly. They're not fighting for every ball. When they're not on the ball, they're not closing down the way they did prior to the title being won.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable that there's a drop-off in performance, whether it's subconscious or not. Just when you take the pressure of results away, I think you know that the job has been done. I think from Ange Postecoglou's perspective, you'll not want them in that mindset when you've still got a cup final to prepare for. I think everyone would anticipate that Celtic will go to Hampden, play Inverness and come away having completed a domestic treble. But it's not one on paper. It's not. Football doesn't work like that. I'm sure that Inverness would have something to say about that, and I think you want your players to still have an edge to them ahead of that game. I don't think you would want any kind of complacency. So I think that's a challenge across the remaining 2 league games, is that you ramp up the tempo and you lift the level of performance again.
No criticism for St Mirren. They did exactly what it said on the tin. They came out, they attacked. Curtis Main could have had, never mind a hat-trick, he could have had 4.
Yeah, he took his goals well. He looked a threat all day. As Ruffy said there, I think that Celtic looked very edgy at the back. St Mirren go there with absolutely nothing to lose. They had a go. They've still got a slight chance. I think they're 2 points behind Hibs. The 2 games left, so they've got a slight chance of, in my opinion, 5th will get you European football. So no, they went there, they played really, really well. And as I said, Celtic's difficult, to keep that edge. And you've won the title, and you've got one more big game really against Inverness in the final. So, but you've got to give credit to St Mirren. They played well and they thoroughly deserved their point.
And Stephen Robinson, no criticism whatsoever for his players.
It's he scored 2 good goals. I thought he was a handful all day, him and Greg Kilty. And we know we can't take them off. We know we've got no options really to bring on but the younger kids who are very, very inexperienced. He probably misses the easiest one with a header. He got good contact on it, so he's frustrated because how many players have scored a hat-trick at Celtic Park? So it's now proud of his performance. And as you say, to a man, it's very difficult to have any kind of criticism.
It's been a great season for St Mirren. I think most of the fans well pleased with what they've been watching, and the manager, they're buying right into what Stephen Robinson is doing. No surprise he was nominated for Manager of the Year. Hibs won, Rangers 3. In the end, Rangers were comfortable against your boys. Just a consolation at the end for Hibs.
Yeah, I was disappointed in Hibs' performance. I thought that Hibs have definitely got more to play for than Rangers at the minute, and I thought they would have come out and I think the players at the top end, Eli Johan had an off day. He got into great positions, and his final pass, his final shot was poor. Nisbet had a couple of chances, and another day he could have scored, but I thought Rangers were cruised the game. To be honest, I thought they were comfortable, and once that first goal went in, I think it's a poor mistake from Marshall, the goalkeeper.
Is he under pressure?
Yeah, I think he is now. I think that the Hibs supporters, from what I'm seeing is, he's under a bit of pressure for next season. David Marshall, I think he came in at the start and he was very, very good. But I think there's just starting to be errors creeping into his game in bigger games, and I think that Hibs will be looking for someone to either replace him or push him in the summer, because I think the big lad Dabrowski's out of contract. I think he'll be away, so Hibs need to sign a goalkeeper anyway, and I think they'll try and sign someone to put real pressure onto Marshall next year.
I thought he had a howler at the third as well.
Yeah, Ruffy can tell me more than it was kind of ricochet back off him.
The third one he had dived for the shot, and it obviously ricocheted back the way, and he tried to get up. The first one, any goalkeeper gets beat like that needs to have a serious look at themselves.
Yeah. Did you see great similarities from the Peru game, Ruffy?
No, I was thinking more Andy Ritchie's.
Because you've been beaten similar to that.
I know,
but by the way, when you turn around there and you say to him, no, he was diving for the first one, and then the boy eventually puts it in, I thought, that's reminiscent of Zico and Socrates.
He'd committed himself down low, and he just couldn't get back in time, and he was unfortunate it hit off him. I don't think it was his fault, but the first one, he's not. Was anybody anticipating a shot for that angle? No. So you're expecting the ball to come.
He gets 2 hands on it.
He was late in coming across for it, but don't take it away from Tavernier. It was a tremendous strike.
Yeah, I think, before we hear from Michael Beale, I think when you look at James Tavernier's contribution, a lot of people will look back in history and assess what he's won. But as a Rangers captain, an overall player, I think he can hold his head up high, Ali. I mean, his goal scoring from free kicks, great. His goal scoring from penalties, phenomenal. This is a guy who's a fullback.
Yeah, I think his goal scoring stats are exceptional for the position that he plays and where he is in the pitch. I think you would have to give him that. I do think defensively he's culpable at times. I think that there's a weakness here in his game. I think the goal scoring stats sometimes offset criticism about that.
Do they offset criticism because we as a nation tend to look at the negatives rather than focus on, a glass being half full or 3/4 full? Because if I was looking at James Tavernier and I'm saying to myself, well, here's a player with all these qualities, and at the back end of it, he's got some weaknesses. I'd still be taking him in the team. I think sometimes they're a wee bit negative. I'm just giving it as an observation.
I think if you're a full-back, though, the primary role is those defensive attributes. And I think if those were a bit stronger, I'm not sure he would have stayed at Rangers. I think there might have been other clubs coming in for him because of how prolific he can be at the other end of the pitch.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Ruffy, because you always look at players like that and you say, would he get in, when Rangers win the league or Celtic win the league, they compare who gets in at that full-back position. Who would you have? Would you have a Tony Ralston or an Alistair Johnson or a Juranovic ahead of a James Tavernier?
No, I wouldn't, because obviously of his goal scoring, but Ali's right, he gets turned very easily. Hibs turned him twice.
Yeah, Ewan.
And when you move up to a different level, I mean a European level, if there's somebody of that ability, he's got to defend, because it happened in Europe. Now he'd lost, a lot of the Rangers supporters are saying every goal we lose is down his side. So it's okay as long as he's scoring goals and the team are winning games. If they're winning, yeah, you can have the odd mistake and let the opposition score, but it's when you stop winning all the time, then people start identifying the goals that are going in down his side.
Yeah, absolutely. Gregor, who always follows us and tries to be a noise up as often as possible, sent a message to Tam and he said, Peter, see the impression you did of Tam's mates last week on the show. Do it again in front of him. Absolutely, Gregor. Listen, Gregor, you clearly don't know me. I leather people to their face. Yeah, absolutely. What was the score, by the way, with Billy Bob Jr. and Billy Bob Sr. and his other 4 brothers who were called Billy Bob?
You actually never seen the other 4 brothers?
Were they actually mates?
They're pals.
Did they take banjos with them?
Antonio Banderas was there as well. Didn't you see him in the ponytail? He was. If they're watching, they might be watching it.
I'll tell you right now, I had a look at the picture. There was no Antonio Banderas in there, by the way.
Not that football.
Yeah, it really was, honestly. I looked at the picture and I thought, wow, there's going to be a sheriff chasing them shortly. Anyway, so there you are, Gregor. It doesn't matter. That's what mates are for. You get into a pub and you leather each other. So it was interesting on the James Tavernier situation, but nevertheless, there was a few injuries that Michael Beale had to deal with, and I think he was well happy that the players responded on the park.
Mentality of the group today was absolutely fantastic because the preparation couldn't have been any worse. We lost Alfredo and Glenn Kamara yesterday in training. Rabbi was on the bench but wasn't able to go on. Scott Wright we lost overnight as well. Scott Arfield came on where he's playing through a problem. So actually coming to the game today and knowing Hibs have been in such good form and unbeaten in 4, I thought it might be an interesting day for us because we probably had 12 players that are not available. So I think the mentality of the starting team was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I think we're waiting on a list of players coming from Michael Beale who'll be leaving. I'll tell you a blow for him though, Ali, is Connor Golson, 10 weeks, foot injury. They're wondering whether he's going to be ready for Champions League qualifiers.
I think that would be your big concern. I think you want him in, apart from anything else, you would want a proper pre-season too, rather than someone having to come in when the campaign's already started. I think often what you see in those circumstances is somebody playing catch-up for a while, but crucially, you'd want him fit for those European qualifiers. I think he's such a big part of that defence.
Yeah, we're still waiting on the names as well, Tam. I think we can second guess most of them, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, well, obviously two big ones are Kent and Morelos. I don't think they'll be there next year. Arfield possibly is another one. You know, McGregor. You know, so there's ones that if they've not signed a new contract already, that you wouldn't think that's going to happen. So I totally agree with Arsenal. I think that if Goldson's doesn't get a pre-season under his belt, he's going to be struggling, because Ruffy will tell you, not so much with goalkeepers, but for outfield players, you need that. You need that 3-4 weeks of base fitness to take you through the season, or else you pick up injuries. So that could be a really big blow for Rangers going to big games in the summer.
As for Hibs, any faint hopes they had of finishing third, I think they're well and truly killed off now. The manager at the end of the game, after a 3-1 defeat, wanted to focus on the referee. He thought he had a nightmare.
And we didn't think it was a foul at all. I don't know if you guys have looked at it back, but it's a very soft one. You know, CJ reads it. Campbell chops back inside, and CJ just gets his body in between the man and the ball, which is good defending. But referee wanted to give those all day, and was very quick to blow the whistle for that one. So obviously he believed it was a foul.
I can't wait till they all get together. They better all get together with the referees for that VAR big chat. There better be a summit where all the managers turn up, Ruffy.
Well, they have to turn up, because they're notorious for not turning up at their meetings, and there's only like 4 or 5 turn up when they're asked to come along. So no, I think this is an important one. I think the handball one's a really important one. We were talking at the weekend there about, you know, the dialogue between, you know, VAR and the referee. Is somebody going to be allowed to hear how they come to these decisions? So it'd make it a lot easier.
Yeah, and with VAR in mind, Motherwell defeated Ross County by a goal to nil. If I was Malky Mackay, I would be absolutely pulling my hair out, wondering if match officials are going to determine his fate.
Yeah, I thought you had a very valid point, what he made after the game, and you can sense why he's so angry when so much is at stake for his club, and the ramifications of what happens if they don't stay up. So I think he had a point, and I think these are definitely aspects you want VAR to enhance the game, but I don't think you want it to be there in the middle making decisions. I think you've got to trust the judgment calls of the referee.
Yeah, Malky Mackay says the referee wasn't up to it.
If the move runs out, and he said, yeah, but your guy kicked over the bar, and I said, but you whistled first, and then he's kind of reeled back and went, I know what you mean, it was my error. Oh, that's not good enough. So that kind of makes it sickening when VAR then decides in the 96th minute that Keith's win is a penalty. Keith Watson, it hits his hand and it's a penalty, but he's not even looking at it, and it flicks his hand, because I'm having that conversation right now with their goalkeeper, who has seen it and can't believe it's a penalty. Their goalkeeper. Also, I'm interested as to how many games this year, and you guys will know how many games have gone to 12 minutes extra time, considering there was no major trauma today on that pitch.
Well, I mean, Iakoviti was down, and there were a few things. 12 minutes is unusual, to be perfectly honest with you, Tom. But I think the other thing about it, he didn't think Ewan Anderson had a grip of the game, and certainly when you're denied a penalty, he changes his mind, and then you get a late one against you. And when you're getting the opposition saying they can't believe it was a penalty, suddenly it just makes you more and more angry. The point is here, they could be going down off the back of things like this.
Yep, they could be, and then if they get the penalty, they should have got, you know, they go 1-0 up, and they probably win the game. You know, that could be them safe. So that's massive moments in the game. I'm not surprised that he's absolutely raging now. You can see it in his voice, and hear it in his voice, and that could be crucial, absolutely crucial. There's 2 games left. You know, if they go down by a point, you know, and they're going to be looking at that decision. So hopefully it's not pivotal for them, you know, in relegation battle. But yeah, I thought it was a poor decision from the referee, and the handball one. Listen, that's just a lottery. If it hits your hand, sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. And just unfortunately for Ross County, it went against them. And I think Van Veen scored in the 99th minute. So if you're Ross County, if you're Malky and you're in the team there, then you're absolutely sick about those 2 decisions, which could have went either way.
Yeah.
What happens if the Ross County boy, puts the ball in the back of the net, and then they go up to VAR and they said it's not a penalty? Do they allow the goal?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Well,
it's advantage, wasn't it?
The passage of play would have continued, Ruffy. They would have waited.
Why did they get a foul? Why did they get indirect free kick? Motherwell in the box.
Well, basically because they had to start it from the point of where they thought there was a penalty incident.
I just thought it'd be interesting if the boy had hit the back of the net. You know what VR would have said.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, there you are. You've got it. You happy with that?
And the penalty, the thing up the other end, the boy's trying to hold the boy back, and the ball just hits off his hand. I'd advocate it'd be Malcolm Mackay. I wouldn't be.
You've been unhappy all year about it. The one positive in the whole game, I think, from a Motherwell perspective, certainly, just look at the stats with Kevin Van Veen. He's scored in his 9th consecutive game. He's just been unbelievable, hasn't he?
He's been exceptional, absolutely exceptional, and I don't think you would bet against him hitting the 30 before the end of the season. He's got another couple of games to do it. I think what you sense is his confidence in his own belief just now when he's on the pitch, and he knows he's got one last move to go.
Yeah, I think if you're Van Veen, you just basically say to everybody, look, I'm taking free kicks, I'm taking penalties, I'm taking everything.
You don't notice at the weekend, he's not passing it to anybody. Even if he's wide, even if he's wide of the goal, he's having a shot. There's people in the shade going, oh, no, forget me, I'm in here.
And just out of curiosity, you're saying that and Tom's saying, what's your problem with that? Is that right, Tom?
Listen, he might have some sort of bonus in his contract that he's getting. He'll get money if he gets 30 goals or something on a smaller scale. I remember playing in America and for Rochester, and
Did you play in America?
Yes, going into the last game against LA, I needed to score a goal, and I was getting $5,000.
Wow!
Right, I needed to score a goal, and I was shooting for everywhere.
Yeah,
I got beat 2-0. I never scored. And I seen the boards going up about 10 minutes to go, and I see his feet takes me off. Did you get hooked with 10 minutes to go?
Yeah.
I didn't know I was getting $5,000. That was a club that went bust the year after.
Yeah.
So you're not shoving your strike partner out the road and pushing him up.
I was shooting for everywhere.
Of course, Motherwell have had a good season. Kevin Van Veen's had a good season. Well, they've had a good season since Stuart Kettlewell came in. Let's qualify that, because obviously, Stephen Hamlet didn't quite work out for him. But since Stuart Kettlewell's come in, everything's just turned around for them. He wants to be top of the bottom half of the table, Stuart Kettlewell. So Kerry Pollock was out there today to interview player and striker.
Here at Fir Park this morning, the Steelmen are preparing to take on Livingston on Wednesday night at the Tony Macaroni. And with both sides sitting at the top of the bottom six, this is the battle for 7th place. And Stuart Kettlewell believes his side are certainly in pole position to do so.
We would love to finish in that role, in that slot, if you like. But I think what's been the most pleasing thing, if I try and take out placings and everything else, the most pleasing aspect for me is from getting us from the position that we were in to the position that we find ourselves in just now. I think it's been a remarkable run. It's testament to the players, to how they've performed, to how they've went about their business. And I think if we continue to do that over the next 2 games, we give ourselves a real good chance to finish in that position.
Motherwell's top goal scorer Kevin Van Veen set himself a public challenge to reach 30 goals this season. With 27 already ticked off, the striker has just 2 games to reach that milestone, and certainly believes in his abilities that he can do just that.
It was Hibs, I think, 19 or 20, and I said to the same media, I think it was in this room, I said I'm going to score another 10 more, and everybody thought, like, this guy is just off his head. But now we're 7 goals further. I'm 3 away from what I've said, and we've got 2 games to go, so I'm still stuck to my word till this point, like in a way of like I've not reached it yet, but I do believe in myself and the team to get 6 points in the next 2 games. Because Livingston and Dundee United, first Livingston of course, so we have to focus first on Wednesday and then on Sunday. But the way we are feeling, even myself, to keep creating chances and keep scoring, why the 30 is well in my reach.
Yeah, I hope he gets it. It would be brilliant for him as well. I just wonder where he's going to end up, Ruffy. Is he Rangers, Aberdeen, Hibs, Hearts? They should all be in for him, surely.
Oh, I think once the figures set how much, then you start having to eliminate certain teams. But we don't know what that figure is. I mean, Kettlewell's already said none of the teams can afford them. So what are they starting at? What figure are we talking about? Are we talking about £1 million? Are we talking about £500,000?
Yeah.
And he's saying that apart from Rangers and Celtic, nobody else can afford them.
What do you think? What do you think?
It's his age, and I just...
What would you pay for him? 30 goals this season, Ruffy.
I don't have one, Charlie.
Yeah. Charlie. I miss Charlie for that, do you?
I don't know. $500,000's a lot of money, you know. He could have a great season this year.
Remember, he's only 6 months away from talking to another club and going for nothing. 6 months, so are Motherwell prepared to write off £500,000 and just saying that you're not going for $500,000, we want $1 million? I don't think anybody would pay $1 million for him, but if they're prepared to just say, listen, we'll keep you for a season, and then you can go on a free, and he might be suited to that as well. He might think, I'll get more money in my own pocket if there's no transfer fees. So
I don't think he fancies England again. So I'd love to see him stay in Scotland, Ali, would you?
Yeah, I think he's had a tremendous season. Even last year, I thought he had a fairly decent campaign. I think he's been much more consistent this season. I don't think there's any doubt in the qualities that he's got. I think for the likes of £1 million for Rangers or so, I think he'd be a tremendous signing. If you're scoring 30 goals at Motherwell, what are you going to score when you're getting fantastic quality of balls in?
If I was Rangers, I'd pay £1 million for him.
Would you?
Oh, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
He's not going to play every week, but he's domestically.
He knows the league, he knows the environment. He's prolific in the environment.
Yeah.
And it seems like small change for what you're going to get.
Rangers fans, would you sign Kevin Van Veen? Would he be the man to fire you to title glory next season? And of course, would he be able to step up to the plate as far as the European standards concerned? 2 Champions League qualifiers and then possibly getting into the group stages. It's all about opinions. Livingston 2, Dundee United 1. Some people suggested that maybe the tools had been put away by Livingston. Well, they brought them back out again for what I call is just it's like a basket case, Dundee United at the moment.
Yeah, I think Jim Gooden summed it up at the end. You can't go into a relegation battle and lose a goal in 2 minutes. And the way that the goals, lost, there was a large part of Dundee United supporters there. And they were obviously stunned by that. They were expecting a bit, but they were expecting Livingston not to be full throttle. But that certainly goal just puts, if you're in the Dundee United team, you're in panic stations right away.
But the back line, Ruffy, has been like that all season.
Poor. Any ball coming into the box has been really, really poor. The goalkeeper at one stage of the season was making fantastic saves and saving them, but not now, and I think it's the centre of the defence is just poor.
If you are in deep, deep trouble, and you're at the tail end of the season trying to save your skin, and that ball comes to the edge of the box and you're not sure where your keeper is, you just hit the £85 to £100 ball right out of the stadium.
Yeah, I think absolutely no question about it. I think there's no ambiguity should be there about when it comes to the decision making process. I think you err on the side of caution all day long, but I have to say I think I really fear for Dundee United. I think it comes a point where you just run out of road, and I think they're very rapidly approaching that moment.
What a game it's going to be on Wednesday, Ali.
Massive, absolutely massive, but I just wonder what happens when you get to this point. You've got 2 games left, you're in the mire. You wonder about the psychology around the dressing room and within the minds of players who have never really got out the bit at all this season. There's never been a point where they've started to piece together consistent runs of form. It's been a really debilitating campaign in terms of coping with the adversity of it, and you wonder at what stage does that take its toll.
Well, this is the last hurrah, to be perfectly honest with you, and I look back, Tam, I remember you guys all saying to me, where are you going on Wednesday? And I said, I'm going up to Tannadice for Dundee United against AZ Alkmaar. What an atmosphere it was. The place was bouncing. United played really well. They won 1-0,
and they got the semi-final.
And you're thinking to yourself, Tam, this could be a good season with Jack Ross, and then the whole thing just a calamity after calamity. And now you're at that last home game, and the fans have played their part. They're not at fault. They've backed them. The colour at some of the home games has been unbelievable, but the team have been grey and dull and not at it, and they've lost games, and now they're staring at the trap door.
They are, and I think they've got to win the game. I think they've got to win. There's going to be another full house here. The pressure's on Dundee United. They've got to win the game. Kilmarnock have got a little bit of a cushion. At the minute, they would probably take a point. And Ross County are still in the mix as well. So, no, I think if you just said to anyone after that game that Dundee United would finish bottom of the league, you'd have been like, what? But I think that the hammering they took over there, and then quickly after that, the hammering they took off of Celtic. I think that the confidence just got ripped out of them. Then they sacked the manager. They made the mistake for me in getting Liam Fox in, and they've just went from bad to worse, to be honest. And they've got 2 games to save themselves. And I'm like Ali, and I've been down there before. I think they're gone. As someone who's been relegated a few times, I just look at that team, and I don't see it. I don't see them getting out of this.
Yeah, Jim Goodwin says destiny is in Dundee United's hands.
I think it's still very much in our hands in terms of if we go and take care of business on Wednesday night. We've proven already this season, even since I've been in, that we're capable of going to Fir Park and winning. So, that has to be the mindset. But we can't get too far ahead of us thinking about Sunday. We have to focus on Wednesday. We have to be positive, and we have to play this game like it's a cup final.
And they're up against a team that are equally as poor in Kilmarnock. So who wins it, Ruffy?
And looking at both of the games at the weekend, I thought Kilmarnock were poor as well, but I think Kilmarnock created some chances, could have got something out of the game. I think it's all about who turns up on the night, which team can handle the pressure. Dundee United have got the home advantage, so it's a really tough one to shout. I don't want to give my hand away so early because the predictions are a bit close,
Yeah.
So I'll be keeping it quite tight until probably the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it's double points at the last games.
Yeah, so I was hearing that.
Yeah, it's a big one, Ruffy.
So you still got a chance then?
To be fair, it could be a 48-pointer. There's 48 points up for grabs.
Still be last.
Yeah, but Hugh's gone. But there's 48 points up for grabs, Ali. And I give you
starter right there.
Yeah, well, absolutely, because I'm at this point now where I'm saying to myself, have a look at the predictor and let's see exactly where we all stand here. Ruffy's on 315, Tam's on 300.
Ruffy's squished it.
I'm on 295, and then it's 286 for yourself, Ali, 277 for Tam Cowan, and 239. Now, hold on a minute here. There's 24 points. Up for grabs. 30 points up for grabs on Wednesday, and then after that there's 60 points up for. It's still 90 points to play for, Ruffy. It could all swing. Ali, you could win it.
But
you could win this potentially.
You and Bob can't get more than 2 points in there.
You
just can't get more than 2 points at any given day. So that means your 2 would be 4.
Well, I got 4 at the weekend. It was dismal. You get 2.
I don't know what I got.
You were rotten.
Secret.
Yeah, that's the good thing, Ali. It's secret now, so he can't cheat. Just out of curiosity, on Kelly.
They've been so inconsistent. I like Kyle Vassell, but I just don't know, is he enough over the next 2 games? I'm intrigued at how Wednesday night's game might go. I think there's 2 teams that are down in confidence, have been poor all season. You just wonder if whoever comes out on top of that will just be breathing a pretty big sigh of relief. But I don't know. I think both of them have been very, very poor. I think Dundee United may edge it just because they're in home form, because I think they'll get a pretty big backing at Tannadice. But yeah, I don't think there's much between the 2 of them when it comes to quality and how they've performed this season.
No Fletcher.
No Fletcher either. Gone. Behich out, sent off. He's gone as well. There's the league table. Tam, what do you make of it? I mean, it's so tight.
I think United. I think they're gone. I think they'll go down. And it's out at Ross County, Kilmarnock. Who's the last game? Who did Ross County play in the last game of the season?
Kilmarnock.
Now that's going to be the one. That's going to be the game to see who's in the playoff, in my opinion. So.
Well, do you know what? My gut feeling is that Dundee United will beat Kilmarnock in midweek and go to 34 points, and then you really are at the absolute ultimate end, aren't you? I mean, then it just becomes, it's just the nerves.
If Dundee United can get beat, they're basically down. They're basically down.
I'd say Dundee United down, they're a team in crisis. Financially, they're a team in crisis because Fletcher won't be in the Championship, McGrew won't be in the Championship, McGrath won't be in the Championship. it'll just be a catalogue of people just leaving.
Yeah, all being cherry-picked.
You look at what's happened at Hamilton when you fall out.
Yeah.
The Premiership, just how dangerous it can be.
Yeah, well, McGrath has been linked with Hibs. He'd be a good signing. I hate to start the cull and look at all the people who are going to be cherry-picked. And of course, whoever's heading down, there's also a playoff place, and your boys at Thistle look as if you're in the box seat, Ruffy. You can't see them throw a 3-0 lead away, can you?
No, I can't see them throwing it away. I think Ayr United will throw everything at it. You know, they're very good at home. You know, the Thistle defence just have to be solid. I've said all along, I think we've got the best back four in the league. You know, Tam keeps saying, no, you've no, because it's Dundee, they get championship. But I just think they're strong. They don't lose a lot of goals, you know, when they're not having to go and get goals. And if they defend properly, which I suppose they will, there's still a chance to nick one up the other end.
Yeah, so through for you, no problem.
Yeah, and the momentum's with us, you know, and obviously whoever finishes second, there's not going to be any momentum there at all. So just you don't know how to gauge how far the Premiership teams are in front of the Championships. But I think the Championship teams, correct me if I'm wrong, in the Scottish Cup did particularly well against the Premier teams, because there was no Premier teams in the final rounds of the Scottish Cup, was there?
Well, when you look at Inverness and Falkirk,
no, there was not one, apart from Rangers and Celtic, none of the Premier teams actually got any run whatsoever.
So you're confident?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Ali, what a weekend you had, because obviously you're there watching what it was just the drama of the women's game was there for all to see. What a tremendous shot in the arm it is for them, because you're talking about just under 16,000 fans, you know, watch Celtic take on Hearts, amazing. Just under 8,500 watch Glasgow City take on Rangers at Ibrox, and the drama that was unfolding, and it just goes down to the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, incredible. It's not good for the blood pressure when you're a writer in such situations and you've got lots of live pieces to write. But yeah, in terms of drama, I think it was fantastic. I think the excitement of the last few weeks has probably helped to raise the profile of the league and turned a bit of a spotlight on it, which I think can only be to its benefit. I thought Glasgow City deserved it. I think to go to Ibrox, to a Rangers team who haven't lost a lot of games, 2 games in 2 seasons, 2 games in 2 years, to go in front of a fairly big crowd, all in favour of the home side, and to win. I think they merited it. I think they've done enough to go and take the title. Lauren Davidson's had a fantastic season. Celtic done what they could do. It was out of their hands after they dropped points, drawn a couple of weeks back. It went out of their hands. But I think they've done what they had to do in the day. They were nervous too. First they dominated the game, but you could sense there was a kind of lack of composure in the final third at points when they were thinking it was going to come down to goal difference, and then when they did get the goal they'd settled down a bit, but it was cruel. I did feel for them at 1 minute. The hush that went around the stadium when news came through that Glasgow City had scored, and you could see Fran Alonso, he's so animated all the time, just utterly crestfallen, and then a couple of seconds later this massive roar went round the stadium because Rangers had scored, and then again the flatness when the goal had been disallowed.
Yeah.
So they were in tears at the final whistle. Lots of devastation at full time, but I think there's very, very little between the top 3 teams. I think they're all much of a much. I think Glasgow City have got a bit of experience. It's the 16th time they've won that title, but I think it sets it up for a fairly intriguing campaign again next year. And then you've got, of course, Sunday's final, Celtic and Rangers in the final at Hampden this Sunday. I'd be keen to see how many of those supporters, it turned out, would stay with them and go along on Sunday.
How many do you think's going to the final now, Ali?
Yeah,
Ali,
probably not going.
Some PR, by the way, now. How many? And you all laughed at me.
What was yours, 20,000?
You all laughed at me. You all laughed at me a couple of weeks ago.
I think they would be delighted to get such numbers. I'm not sure that it'll hit those heights. However, I think they should be aiming. You would like to be cautiously optimistic about the 20 mark, which I wouldn't have said even a month ago. I think what you've seen in the last couple of weeks is 2 records being broken in quick succession. I don't know how much of that comes down to the fact it was such a dramatic finale. But you've got a final. Celtic and Rangers have never played one another in a Women's Cup final before, so there's something new there too. Both of them need to pick themselves up this week. I think both will be fairly devastated. Rangers lost to Champions League place too. Celtic have the slight consolation of that, but you just wonder about whether or not they're capable of going again after being within 2 minutes of going and winning their first title.
If it hits 30,000, should I really push for yourself or maybe Ruffy or Tam, who laughed at me, to maybe take us all out for a meal and a bottle of wine, Ali? I mean, honestly, Ruffy, you're actually getting to the point where you said to me, tell Ali what you said to me. You said, I'd even give you it for 20.
Yeah, I think I would buckle, but I was a bit surprised in there when you were buying up 4,000 this morning.
That's just for immediate family, Ruffy. Yeah, listen, great for the game. It's a huge shot in the arm, and as it increases in quality,
the atmosphere was great, fantastic, didn't it?
It was good.
At both stadiums.
And I thought they stayed with them. I was at Celtic Hearts, and I thought even when news came through and at the end, when obviously they were absolutely on their knees, I thought the crowd gave them an ovation. Like they sensed the efforts across the course of the campaign, and I think there's very, very little between the three teams. There's not much for much, and that's been reflected. The games between all three of them have been fairly tight. I don't think there's much there at all, and it'll be interesting to see who keeps key players this season and who brings in.
Is there a disparity between the three clubs and who pays the most money between Celtic, Glasgow, and Rangers?
It depends who you speak to tell you, but yeah, I think Rangers have the biggest budget, and then Glasgow City, and then Celtic.
Wow, interesting.
Of the three teams, is there any the women who could go higher, like we see thing with Real Madrid?
I would say absolutely there's a few that could go higher, and I think that will be the real test now, not just for the clubs but for the league itself, to try and retain a bit of talent, because obviously there's a real pool when you look south of the border, and financially you're seeing a very similar gap as what you have that exists in the men's game, where you can go down south and really command a much bigger salary and whatnot. And money talks, as we all know. Professional careers are a very new thing in the women's game, and I think many of them would want to maximise their opportunities that way.
Yeah, okay, good luck to the women's game. It'll get bigger and better as the years go on. Down south, talk about bigger and better, Manchester City just looked like a juggernaut that's unstoppable. Alvarez scored the only goal against Chelsea. They were crowned champions before they kicked off, and of course everybody was celebrating, and then undoubtedly Pep realised that everybody was going to ask, yes, you've won the league, could win the FA Cup, but you're going to be judged on your greatness by winning that Champions League.
To be considered one of the greatest teams, we have to win Europe, we have to win the Champions League. Otherwise, maybe what people say, it was not complete our time here. But in the same time, if just in case we are not able to do it in number 10th against Inter, or next season we cannot do it, obviously it's unfair to say that what we have done with 5 Premier Leagues the last 6 years, or 7 and 12, that is something extraordinary.
Well, I have to say, Ruffy, and I've listened to a few, and I've listened to people on Sky Sports as well, who cover the main crux of the English Premier League. Now, Pep Guardiola is a sensational manager, and I love the way he plays football, but for people to start suggesting that Pep has changed football, I think their head's in the clouds. I mean, honestly, to suggest that man has changed football, he may well have brought to English football a pattern of play which wasn't predominantly what you would associate with it. But there are other icons down through the years who had a real impact in changing football. And I think he, on the basis of the money that he has at his disposal, he's got to obviously orchestrate a team together. But greatness comes with winning the Champions League. And Sir Alex Ferguson is way, way ahead of him with the titles, and won the Champions League twice. And probably, if I'm being really cynical about it, Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United probably let 2 or 3 slip as well that they should have won.
Yeah, well, the strength and depth was there at the weekend. I mean, they were beating Chelsea 1-0 quite comfortably. I don't think they were under any pressure. And then with about 20 minutes to go, he decided, well, we'll try and see this game out. And he put his 3 subs on: Haaland, De Bruyne and Silva.
Yeah.
No. They'll be sitting on the bench all day, but they just come on and strolled a bit. So you're right, the money's been spent. He's bought the best players, but when you buy the best players, as he said there, you have to justify it and win the big one.
Yeah. Changed football, Ali?
Yeah, I think in the modern era we're all prone to a bit of hyperbole at times. I think that's pretty much what it is. I think he's done tremendously well. I don't think you would doubt about what he's achieved in the game, both over in Spain and then before he came to England. But yeah, I think we can steady ourselves a wee bit.
But he's not done it. Like he's done every club he's been at. He's done it with money, with big clubs. You know, like Ferguson won the Winners' Cup with Aberdeen. You know, and done well with St Mirren and all that. And for people to say he's the greatest manager of all time, I think it's nonsense. I think like
Carlo Ancelotti's got a better record than him.
For me, guys like Alex Ferguson who've done it at smaller clubs and achieved great things. He's had money to spend every club he's been at. I'm not saying he's a top manager, but Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Man City, he's been heavily backed. So he's not the greatest of all time, but I think that they will, if they win the treble, they'll be the best team, English football since Fergie won it in late 90s.
Yeah.
20 odd years.
Listen, you've got to respect him. I love the way his teams play football. I like the way they go about their business, but he's got the best players. He's got the most unbelievable squad to choose from. And to be perfectly honest with you, when you look at since the Barcelona team beat Manchester United, it's a long time of winning titles in these divisions, and it takes a lot to win a title. But he hasn't won Champions League for a long time.
No, I agree.
And there are other managers out there who've, with a different style and a different pattern, have won that Champions League.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't question it, and I do think they will win the Champions League now. I think they'll go on and do it, but I think everybody needs to calm down a wee bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you're here, Ali. Thank God. People who are just going mental for these things. Of course, listen, it could all have been so different if Arsenal hadn't crashed and burned. Mikel Arteta, fairly reflective on the misery.
A really sad day, a lot of difficult emotions. Obviously we lost the game, we lost the championship after 10.5 months fighting for it, 9.5 months almost on top of it. And obviously we built a lot of illusion, enthusiasm and belief that we could go all the way and win it. And at the end we fell short. First of all, congratulate Man City. They are the champions. They deserve to be the champions. They've done it for 38 games. We haven't been able to do that.
Can't believe it. Blew it big time. Who's going down, Ruffy? Newcastle, Leicester tonight. Leicester have to win to try and get themselves in with a chance of escaping. Everton have Bournemouth last game of the season as well. So I think it's the three that are there at the moment: Leeds, Leicester and Southampton.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Newcastle have got too much to play for tonight. They want Champions League football, and they need to win this game to seal that. So I think they could be on the end of a few goals. But yeah, I think the other two will be gone as well.
Yeah, Ali?
I think Leicester will go down.
Leeds?
Yes, I think.
Everton just have to beat Bournemouth.
Yeah. I think it's definitely
at home.
Yeah, I think that's a big advantage as well.
Yeah.
But I think Leicester are gone for definite. They'd be my one that I would say. It's just about all over.
Yeah,
I think the three in the final games will fancy their chances. I think Leicester at home to West Ham. I think Leeds are at home to Tottenham, who have chucked it, and Everton are at home to Bournemouth, who've nothing to play for. So Leicester need to win the night. I don't see them doing that. So I think it's going. I'm glad that Nottingham Forest stayed up, because they've stuck with that manager. I think that you see the teams at the bottom: Southampton, Leeds, Leicester. They all sacked their manager, and some of them are getting through two managers. So I'm glad that the teams at the bottom that have sacked two managers are getting done.
Yeah, okay, there you are. Good to have you back. Ruthless as usual. That's what happens when you're out there playing banjos with your mates, Ruffy. You start to get that little edge about you, you know what I mean? Next up, you'll be in Smokey and the Bandit 3. See, he's there. We'll finish on a slightly negative note. Ali, Real Madrid released a statement. Vinicius Jr. was racially abused by fans, and he was very strong in his condemnation of the fans who were giving him absolute pelters, and a lot of it racist. And I just think Real Madrid today called the abuse a hate crime, and they've filed a report to the Attorney General's office, so they are backing their player. It's something that's rearing its ugly head time and time again.
I think Spain has a problem with it. I think how they've addressed it when there have been such instances has been poor. My full sympathy would be with the player. I thought some of the stuff was appalling, and it's not the first time we've seen it in La Liga. I think you've seen glimpses before. I don't think there can be any apology for it whatsoever. I think you've got to come down on it as hard as possible. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I don't think just Spain have a problem with it. I think quite a few countries in Europe. But for me, Vinicius Junior this season, having seen him up at close quarters, Ruffy and I watched him as well. I think he is, in the top 5 world superstars.
Yeah, he's unbelievable football, and obviously Real Madrid are going to back the player as well. But you don't want him having to leave somewhere because of the abuse he's getting.
Yeah.
I do think I think Spain is worse than other countries, and it might just be at the end of the season or maybe next season he thinks I've had enough. I want to go somewhere else when I'm not getting the same level of abuse.
Yeah. Okay. The quiz. Here's the quiz question. Who was the last player to score 10 consecutive Scottish Premiership games? Did you know that?
I'll give you a clue.
Well, obviously, because you've read it. Yeah, absolutely. There you are. Thanks for that.
You're not coming in for the next show?
Yeah, absolutely. There you are. That was a good clue, to be perfectly honest with you. But nevertheless, he was actually, apart from obviously throwing the dummy out of the pram, he was actually quite a good lad, Mark Padu. That was my catchphrase. But nevertheless, he was actually
a good lad.
He was actually a good lad, but he's just his commitment at times. When you throw the boots down, Ruffy. If you're a manager worth your salt, you just go over and stiffen him, don't you? If you're not coming out for the second half.
Kind of dressing room you've got, kind of people
imagine
you've
throwing
got
the boots
in
down.
there. Yeah, oh God, you wouldn't get away with that in some Celtic players.
I have to tell you, by the way, if you'd thrown the boots down in Roy Aitken's day, Mark would be still in hospital right now, to be perfectly honest with you. But he was a wonderful player, and of course, I think he scored a hat-trick against Liverpool for Leeds United. Do you remember? He was a great player, and funny guy as well. But you're right.
Can't be doing that. The Celtic supporters don't let never forgive him for that.
No, absolutely not. That's the answer to the quiz. Thanks to you for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks to so many people also who, as Ruffy says, get the earpods in, go out and listen to the podcast as well. And of course, if you want to have a look on our YouTube channel at the great content that you can watch, there's lots more coming up over the summer months, and of course lots of big news that I think you'll enjoy for the new season coming up as well. But we're getting close to the end of this season, and we're all going to be going out for a lovely meal courtesy of Hugh McDonald. It's coming ever closer. Thanks to Ali, thanks to Ruffy. Great to have Tam back with us, and thanks to you for watching. Good night.